Hello viewers, welcome to CEC Gurukul lectures. I am Dr. Sanavar Soham from Department of Botany, Kalindi College, University of Delhi, and I have been discussing adaptations of hydrophytes and xerophytes in plant ecology series. Now I am continuing with a very prominent feature, heterophyly in hydrophytes. So as we know and I had discussed, heterophyly is a phenomena noted in hydrophytes. The different forms of leaves are produced on the same plant. Examples: Sagittaria, Sagittarifolia, Limnophylla, Heterophylla, etc. In submerged species, entire, rounded or slightly low plotting area leaves are found along with linear, ribbon-shaped or finely dissected submerged leaves. So, moving on to xerophytes. What are xerophytes? They are the plants adapted to live in dry habitats and are termed as xerophytes. They possess means to prevent water loss or to store the available water. They are defined as plants that grow on substratum that usually possess gravitational groundwater at a depth of 20 to 25 centimeters. They are basically of two types: ephemerals and succulents. Now, what are succulents? They are the plants that store water. For example, cactus, agave, etc. They possess thick, fleshy stems or leaves. And the adaptations in xerophytes can be morphological, either that is structural or physiological or both. The adaptation in xerophytes include waxy leaf coatings, the ability to drop leaves during dry periods, ability to fold leaves to reduce sunlight absorption, and development of a dense hairy leaf covering. All these adaptations help the xerophytes to escape drought or to endure recurring drought. During drought, dehydration of plant cells and tissues takes place. A considerable increase in temperature causes overheating, leading to dehydration. Now, heat-resistant plants respond to high temperatures. Stimulation in protein synthesis and high respiration rates have been noticed in these plants. These are the results of high levels of nucleic acids, especially RNA. The hardened plants maintain all their essential processes at a high level during drought. Leaves of hardened plants are usually rich in starch, and all tissues are high in organic high energy bond phosphates, that is ADP and ATP. The hardened plants have a greater absorbing surface on the root system. Thus, the absorption of mineral elements is more intense in the hardened plants. The roots, they are more resistant to high temperatures because of presence of high levels of starch. Small leaves, that is xeromorphism, in these plants occur because of rapid increase in nucleoproteins, enhanced protein synthesis, cell division and differentiation of cells. Protective adaptive reactions against the high temperatures in which they are dwelling mainly involve increase in respiration, increased synthesis of organic acids which bind to released ammonia, and increase the hydrophilic viscosity of the protoplasm. Reproductive organs are sensitive to dry conditions, and injuries to reproductive organs such as gynecia leading to reduction in the fruit production. Pollination and fertilization are also affected in water deficit conditions. The cell shows changes in colloidal chemical properties such as decrease in elasticity and protoplasmic viscosity. Now, moving on to the morphological characteristics of xerophytes. Now, plants, they appear dwarf, thick or stunted such as in aloe and agave, or prostrate such as Euphorbia prostrata. The root system is well developed, extensive penetrating very deep. Root hairs and root caps are very well developed. The leaves, they are reduced in area to check transpiration, for example in Casuarina. The leaves may be modified into phyllodes, such as in Acacia melanoxylon, or they become succulent as in aloe, agave or yucca. The leaves, they show various features like grey or light green, coloration, rolling, wilting, leaf fall, leathery glandular outgrowths. Leaves become spiny and a coating of wax or presence of hairs are shown. The stems are usually stunted. They have hard, rigid and they are covered with thick bark. The stem may be modified into phylloclades, that is Opuntia and Euphorbia, or cladodes, that is Ruscus and Asparagus. The stem may show coating of hairs or wax or spines, etc. In plants where the leaves are absent or caducous, the stem performs the function of photosynthesis, such as in Capparis ephylla. The lamina of leaf may be very much segmented, as in Acacia or Prosopis, or long, narrow and needle-like, as in Pinus. There are various types of xerophytes. The three main types of xerophytes that have been known on the basis of differences in their morphology, physiology and taxonomy are ephemeral annuals. The ephemerals are prominently found in semi-arid regions. They complete their entire life cycle within few weeks, and with the onset of rains, seeds of plants germinate, quickly grow to maturity, set flowers and set seeds. This means that they complete their entire life cycle in a short span of time before the soil dries out again. The morphological adaptations in ephemerals include small size and large shoots in comparison to root. Such plants have been termed as drought escaping, and they are considered as false xerophytes, as they do not really endure drought. They cannot survive low water conditions for a long period of time without permanent injury to the cells, or rather they escape it. Most of these plants are small, rounded, dense shrubs represented and belonging to families Papilionaceae, for example Astragalus, Compositae, for example Artemisia, Zygophyllaceae, Boraginaceae and Graminae. Now this figure is of Astragalus species. Then second category of xerophytes is succulents. Succulents also contribute a large percentage of vegetation to the flora of the most semi-arid regions. They are frequently found in locally dry habitats such as sandy soils, the sea, BHs and etc. of more humid climate. The succulents are a distinct group of plants, not only in structure but also in metabolism and water economy as well. The accumulation of organic acids, pentoxins and mucilage by succulents is very well known. The structural modifications enables the plant to accumulate the proliferated tissue in the proliferated tissue depending upon the extensibility of individual cells, and also large reserves of water during brief rainy period. Succulents is due to the proliferation of parenchymatous cells accompanied by an enlargement of vacuoles of mature cells and a considerable reduction in the size of intercellular spaces. The cells of water storage tissues are rich in glue-like mucilage. This holds water very efficiently. Water is thus lost through the transpiration. A few stomata are seen in the epidermis of fleshy stems. So, the stomata they open only at night in such cases. The succulents they shrivel during the periods of drought. Why? Because they become depleted of water and swell up again with the advent of rain. The features such as relatively thick cuticle and closing of stomata during day and important factors permitting conservation of water. The succulents such as cactus, as shown in the figure, they survive rainless months and replenish their water supply again during the following rain. These plants belong to family Euphorbiaceae, Crassulaceae, Liliaceae, Amaryllidaceae, Portulacaceae, etc. Examples of stem succulents is cactus, and the leaf succulents include agave, aloe, sedum. Cacti are unique among all types of desert plants in having shallow but vast spreading roots, enabling them to absorb the superficial water quickly. The rootlets wither away when supply of water in the surface soil is exhausted and reappear within a very short time where there is a supply of water in the soil. Plants decrease the water loss by evolving a metabolic change. The stomata open during night. It absorbs carbon dioxide, that is known as dark fixation. It is stored in the cells in the form of dicarboxylic acid such as malic acid. During the day, they keep their stomata closed, thereby preventing loss of water. The dicarboxylic acids get transformed into sugars at night. They avoid drought by means of conserving water. The tissues of succulents do not have any intrinsic resistance to the harmful effects of drought. The survival of plant depends on the xeromorphic characters such as reduction of leaves to spines, ridges or protuberances, so that the water can be conserved. The thick and waxy epidermis helps in the retention of the water. For example, in Opuntia delaneri, which is also known as nagfani, it is a succulent xerophyte. The function of photosynthesis has been taken over by the stem in the absence of the leaves. The stem is flattened and green, and it is referred to as phylloclade. This is the phylloclade, as you can see here. Now it is thickened and fleshy due to the storage of water. The phylloclades have thick cuticle and sunken stomata. Mucilage helps in retaining water. The axillary branches are modified into spines which are present in areoles. They reduce the transpiration. Now, this is Euphorbia roellana, also known as dandathor. It is a succulent plant with caducous leaves. The stem is angular, green, and bears spine in pairs. It performs the functions of photosynthesis whole year, and the stem stores the water. This is a plant we all know, Aloe barbadensis, and it is also a succulent shrub. The stem is reduced, it is thick and fleshy, and it leaves store water. The margin and apex of leaf are spiny to reduce the transpiration. The leaves are thick and they are arranged in whorls. The leaf surface is shining and bears a thick cuticle. The stomata are present on the lower surface. The leaves, they bear tuft of trichomes or hairs. Mucilaginous latex helps in the plant and it helps in retaining water. Asparagus is a cultivated succulent xerophyte. The leaves are modified into scales. The latter are spiny and bear a whorl of axillary branches. The branches are modified into cladodes. Each cladode is a leaf-like, needle-shaped and fleshy structure. The roots are adventitious, which store food and water to form root tubers in the fascicles. Now, moving on to the third type of xerophytes, the non-succulent perennials. Members of this category, which are known as Xerophytes, they are actually the drought-enduring plants. They successfully endure long and continuous dearth of water in the soil. Soil drought conditions are usually accompanied by dry atmospheric conditions such as high temperature, low humidity, and often high wind velocity, all of which favor high transpiration rates. In Xerophytes, water deficiency usually reaches 60 to 70% of their mean fresh weight. For example, Acacia nilotica, which is also known as kikar or babool, is a non-succulent, drought-enduring tree. It possesses an extensive taproot system. The stem is thick, erect, and covered by brown corky bark in its older parts. The leaves are compound, stipulate, and bipinnate. The pinnules are small and oval. The stipules are modified into spines to reduce transpiration and prevent grazing by the animals. Now moving on to Solanum, another non-succulent plant. So Solanum xanthocarpum is a wild herb with yellow prickles all over the surface, commonly found in the dry areas and wasteland. The spines reduce transpiration and also provide protection against grazing animals. Other examples are Argemone mexicana, which is prickly poppy, jungly post, Nerium, which is Caneer, Ziziphus, which is jungly berry. In these, the leaves are small, leathery, with the hairy or bloomy coating. The stipules are modified into spines. The branches are slender but stiff. These species grow in arid areas or wastelands. Now let's move on to the adaptive features in xerophytes. Now, the morphological and physiological characteristics enables the plants to withstand drought. The major features include dehydration. Now, desert plants can withstand considerable dehydration as high as 50% of their dry weight. These plants can tolerate protoplasmic desiccation to a much larger extent by changing the colloidal chemical state of the protoplasm. The gelatinous coating on the cell walls of blue-green algae help in maintaining hydration in cells. Now, second is rapid elongation of taproot. In arid and semi-arid regions, the surface soil, which is no deeper than the few centimeters, it also dries out. The plants possess long taproot system that penetrates deep into the soil. This prevents drying of the soil from the surface downwards by the extensive root system, which helps the soil in retaining water. Now, third feature is absorptive capacity. The production of extensive root system in proportion to shoot system not only increases the total absorptive capacity of the plant, but reduces the exposure of the plant to the atmosphere. Many desert plants have adventitious roots which are deep and are capable of absorbing even the little amount of available water that is present in the moist subsoil. The next is high osmotic pressure of the cells. This is also one of very important adaptive feature. The high osmotic pressure of the cells is a characteristic feature of xerophytes. It indicates high solute content of the soil. The cells possess a very high water potential, which is around 100 to 150 atmosphere. The cell walls exhibit little or no elasticity. The rigid and inelastic cell wall structure prevents cellular collapse under water stress conditions and influences water holding capacity of the cell. This feature enables plants to adapt themselves to drought conditions and provide resistance to water loss through transpiration. This also helps in the development of negative water potential and helps in uptake of water from the dry soils. Now, moving on to the ability to reduce transpiration rates. The leaves are modified to spines to reduce loss of water through transpiration. Anatomical features, for example, dead hairs, sunken stomata, help to reduce transpiration rates in xerophytes. The stomata close during the day. Now, this is the TS of Nerium, and you can see the sunken stomata, and the stomata has hairs and the palisade which is closely packed. The leaf shedding provides a means of enduring transpiration for branches devoid of leaves. Many xerophytes retain their leaves throughout the season. In these species, the epidermis is multi-layered. It is heavily cutinized and waxy to provide greater resistance to the desiccation under extreme dry conditions. The closure of stomata is coupled with cutinization of the epidermal cells. The plants of this type, they are referred to as sclerophylls, hard-leaved plants. The thick cuticle which is present on the plant leaf prevents the breakage and consequent damage to the leaves caused by high wind generally prevalent in the desert areas. Heavily cutinized leaf surface reflects much of the sun rays, thereby reducing transpiration through reduced heat absorption. A greater density of epidermal hairs on one or both surfaces of the leaves is a prominent feature of xerophytes. Thus, the stomatal surface is protected by a dense coating of the hairs. These living hairs probably increase the rate of cuticular transpiration by increasing the surface of the leaf, but they reduce the transpiration by reflection of large proportion of incident light. Dead hairs perhaps reduced the rate of stomatal transpiration under conditions of intense sunlight or strong wind. The hairs, they act as a mechanical barrier to keep the air currents away from stomatal surface. The sunken stomata, which I had shown in the previous slide, that is the presence of stomata in the cavities below the level of epidermal surface, are found commonly in xerophyte. It's a very common feature of xerophytic plants which is prevalent in leaf. They help in reducing water loss via transpiration. So the purpose of stomata, sunken stomata, is a reduction of transpiration rate so that less amount of water is lost. The spongy tissue is not present, but compactly packed palisade cells are present beneath upper and lower epidermis. They contribute largely towards reduction in the transpiration rates. You can see here they are palisade cells, the palisade layers below the upper and above the lower epidermis. The spongy tissue is not present, but compactly packed palisade cells are present beneath both upper and lower epidermis, and they contribute largely towards the reduction of the transpiration rates. Under drought conditions, many xerophytes possess the capacity to change their form or position so that the amount of light which is received per unit area generally becomes less. In this way, the aerial transpiring surface is protected from direct contact with the air. The leaflets of many desert legumes fold upwards in such a manner that only approximately half the leaf surface is exposed to the air. Some desert grasses, basically leaves are rolled up or folded lengthwise along the longitudinal furrows in the upper surface. These are caused due to turgor movements which are caused by the loss in the turgidity of the rows of enlarged colorless cells, which are often termed as bulliform cells or motor cells. This phenomena has been observed in the species of family Ericaceae. In certain erect and shrubby xerophytic plants, the leaf blades are permanently oriented in vertical position. The light green color of most of the desert plants is throughout to reflect light rays to prevent more light being absorbed and converted into heat, raising the temperature of leaf, thus promoting rapid transpiration. Green tissues function efficiently only when they are turgid, and their photosynthetic efficiency falls off rapidly if they are water deficient. So, in extreme water deficient conditions of this habitat, on the other hand, photosynthetic efficiency is greatly decreased. The epidermal cells of many xerophytic leaves are in a collapsed state in extreme water scarcity conditions of soil and air, but the cells, they straighten up whenever there is an increase in the moisture content. This bellow-like action of the epidermal cell seems to be typical of many desert plants. Xerophytes have more intense assimilation rates than other plants of the palisade cells and chloroplasts are better developed and also function part-time because of the restriction of the activity during periods of water deficit. Some of the features or the adaptations of xerophyte I will be discussing in the upcoming lecture. Thank you very much.